Trying to get the friends I was trying to get
government, members of parliament, members of the diplomatic corps, Reverend Semple, members of the Central Committee of the People's National Congress, members of the APNU and AFC, friends of David Granger, school friends, military colleagues, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. 24 hours ago I was coming out of Dubai. 24 hours from now I'll be in Brasilia. What a way to spend a birthday. I had to be here, of course, because it will be 70 again. But I'm very honored and happy to be Guyana's latest septuagenarian. So I'm happy to be in the club. It is a sort of Thanksgiving for me today. And I'd like to start by thanking the persons, particularly Amna, Roy, Larry, and others who helped to make this function possible. Friends of David Granger, and many other persons I know who helped. And I was greeted by a friend in the mess before we came across here to ask what sort of gift I would like. I said, give me another school boat. I think they won't ask again. Every river I've been to, Demerara River, Berbice River, Mazaruni River, Pomeroon River, Essequibo River, children cannot get to school because they don't have boats. Sometimes you see children paddling to school, they get there tired, they have to paddle back home at night. So this is a very practical gift. So hold the frankincense, hold myrrh. Let's have school boats. I don't mean to be profane. Those people who prefer frankincense and myrrh and their birthdays can continue. But I want to get more school boats so that every Guyanese child can get to school. Members of the first family. I'd like to thank you for being here with me. Sandra and I have been married for 45 years. come this far largely because of our love and support over the years. Yeah, we had a mattress on the ground on the night of the 11th of May, and she was sleeping at the campaign headquarters there with me. That's how we spent the 11th of May, on the floor of the campaign headquarters. But she's been with me on the campaign trail, as she has been with me these last 4.5 decades. Thank you, Sandra, for your support and love. And I thank my children and grandchildren, my siblings, unfortunately, who I've been losing at too high rates. I've lost 5 sisters already. Wow. And of course, I am getting grandchildren, and I'm sorry that my favorite granddaughter is not here. She's the one who tries to speak on a remote control. Hello. She's the one who started to scroll the Time magazine cover. Because she doesn't know what turning pages, she knows what scrolling. But she's far ahead of us. Thank you all for the support that you've given me over the years. Leadership is a long, lonely lane. And in the final analysis, the leader has to accept responsibility of what happens and what has not happened. And I have been trained for this position. I don't say so immodestly, but I came into this compound as a platoon commander, and I'm back today as Commander-in-Chief. But as you heard, it took me 50 years to travel that distance.
Wasn't a coup?
I tell young people, just wait 50 more years. So they were very anxious. But in reaching here, I have to thank many persons. As I said, it's a Thanksgiving Day for me, and first of all, my family, particularly Sandra. I'd like to thank my church, and you heard Reverend Semple, who's canon of the Anglican Church. I was baptized in Anglican, and whenever I could, I still go to the Anglican Church to worship. Father Semple has been the beneficiary of my collection for several months. But I'd like to notify him that I have to change residence very soon. So I'll be going back to Christchurch, where I was baptized, where I sang in the choir, where I was confirmed, where I was married, and from where my wife knows I'll be buried when that time comes. Although not yet. I'd like to thank my schoolmates who've come across the ocean to be here. I can't count all of the names, but one of the closer and older ones, of course, is Desmond Roberts. He's much older than me. I think he was born on the 11th of July. 72 hours or more. But we form a part of a very important generation in Guyana history. We were born in 1945 to celebrate the end of the Second World War. Our parents were very happy about that. And we were in school together, and we've remained together over the years. But a lot of my experiences arose out of them. All of them are here: Stephen, Peter, Vibert. I can't count all the names, forgive me, for being here to help me to celebrate this event. We all had great hopes as 20-year-olds in 1965 looking forward to independence. And I'm glad that when my campaign started 5 years ago, one of the series of campaigns in which I was involved, they all came out and supported me. And sometimes the eye would run water to see the love that people have for the APNU and AFC and their desire to bring about change. Thank you very much. My experience both at high school at Queen's College and at the University of Guyana encouraged great friendships which will last. Being at UG2, we had great days forming the History Society. I think this must be the first university in which a students group could actually pay lecturers to deliver lectures. But we were a prosperous society, and there are many persons who were with me in those years. I was a mature student, as it was called in those days, which means I was older than the rest of the class. I was a mature student, but my days at University of Guyana helped to shape my life. And I joined University of Ghana again the same year I joined the Army in 1965, but I had to leave. And I kept trying to go back, but finally I was able to complete my degree there. So UG, QC, thank you very much. Of course, I spent about 30 years of my life, more or less, around this compound, the Guyana Defense Force. I learned commitment, I learned my country, I learned comradeship right here in Camp Ayangana and in the Guyana Defense Force. I met a lot of common people, but as Abraham Lincoln says, God loved common people, that's why he made so many of them. And in the GDF, you meet a lot of ordinary people who just want a good life. But the level of commitment, the service, the sacrifice, the selflessness that I discovered over those years between 1965 and the time that I left, 29 or 30 years later, helped to develop in me a strong commitment to this country. The veterans never let me down. Some people criticize the veterans. I don't think they realize the veterans are worth 2 seats in the National Assembly. I discovered that very early, but some people like to like to raise the voice of the veterans. I love the veterans. They stood with me, and I will stand by them. I grew up in the PNC. I joined the PNC as a young man. Those days, the civil service regulations prevented you from remaining active in politics if you wanted to serve in the public service. And I left the party briefly, or some would say superficially, or others would say notionally, so that I could put on the olive green of the GDF. But I am back now, and I'm committed to the philosophies which underpin this great party, the People's National Congress, 58 years old. The party which is in government, was in government when the University of Guyana campus was taken over from an empty sugarcane plantation and built. The party which helped to build multilateral schools, which helped to build the Linden-Soosdijk Highway, Harbor Bridge, which helped to create a large housing settlement for working people. One is still called Tuckville, dedicated to the working people. And I'm proud of the social program, the building up of the NIS, and the advances made in education from 1976 in particular, when education was made free, university level. All of these things have inspired me, and it was a great honor for me to be elected leader of the People's National Congress and to be able to carry out that legacy. Since 2012, I worked also with a shadow cabinet made up of APNU, and as you heard this afternoon, the APNU, by some historical coincidence, was formed on the 15th of July, 2011. I don't know how these things happen. It was quite accidental, actually. It was meant to be formed on the 8th of July, but we had some problems with the venue, and somebody said, oh, postpone it for another week. You believe that? You believe anything? But the APNU made a start in creating an opening for multi-party government, an opening for a coalition, an opening for inclusionary democracy. And many of the colleagues with me now in the cabinet, in the government, were also there 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, in the shadow cabinet, working together. And I was very happy on the 14th of February to join with the Alliance for Change. And together we have the first six-party coalition in this country. A coalition that is committed to national unity, to inclusionary democracy, and a coalition that is committed to giving every single Guyanese, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of place of origin, regardless of religion, a good life. And that's what continues to inspire me. In fact, whenever I think about the future, I think about my granddaughter. I don't know why her mother didn't bring her here. Because she lights up my life. Yeah. She saw, during the election campaign, she saw somebody at the post of David Granger said, "What is that woman doing with Grandpa's photograph?" So that was her introduction to the campaign. But I miss her not being here this afternoon. Guyana 70 years ago was a different country. As I told my colleagues at the Ministry of the Presidency this morning, many of the old buildings had clocks because people couldn't afford watches. People didn't have telephones. Most people got around in bicycles. I think I courted my wife on a bicycle. And when for several weeks after we were married, she was still riding a bicycle to work until she became pregnant with her first child. But it was a different society. What we had learned in those days, simple values, and that is why we treasured independence so dearly. There were places where colored people couldn't go in this country, in this city. There were appointments which they couldn't hold. There were businesses which they couldn't participate in. And independence did bring about a change. But that independence is an incomplete work, and it is the duty of our government, the APNU plus AFC, as we aim at the 50th anniversary of independence next year, to continue to make Guyana a freer place. That vision, that sense of mission inspired us 50 years ago, and it still inspires me as I work together with my colleagues in APNU AFC to make sure that Guyana gives every single Guyanese a good life. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to see all of you here with me today. And I'm very happy to be able to speak to you as President of Guyana. But no great accomplishment is the work of a single person. Thousands of people have worked to make this event possible today. In the diaspora, where I started my campaign, they wanted to check me out, I'm told. In the hinterland regions, in the party itself, in the Guyana Legion up the road, thousands of people, 206,000 people came out to support APNU and AFC because they believed in better. Today, it's impossible to call out the names of all of the persons who've helped. But today I feel very proud that there has been a change in Guyanese politics. We are, of course, under the shadow. And let me make this clear when I use these remarks, because sometimes things don't translate well into Spanish. Decree 1787 is like a fishbone in my throat. You're not calling people fishes now. Decree 1787 is a fishbone in my throat. It's stuck there. And I would like to thank our colleagues in the Caribbean community for helping to remove that bone. It has been replaced by a smaller bone, but a bone nevertheless. And in that regard, throughout my military service, we have been struggling with a monkey on our backs. A monkey on our backs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is worse than a nuisance. It is hindering the development of our beautiful country. No country can survive ignoring a claim of 2/3 of its territory. No country could survive with having its petroleum exploration vessels expelled by force. No country could survive with having its neighbors behave in such a manner, actually obliterating the prospects of the future of many of our children. You know, in international relations it is said that you can choose your friends, you can't choose your neighbors. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your neighbors. But I choose to have my neighbors as friends. And I continue to offer the hand of friendship to President Nicolas Maduro Moros. Guyanese people will be friends to Venezuela, friends to Brazil, friends to Suriname, friends to the Caribbean, friends to the entire international community. What hatred could a people of 750,000, a small country, a small state, what hatred could we hold to bigger states, 4 times our size? So, President Maduro, you have our friendship. I'm not interested in corvettes, I'm interested in school boats. You see the picture there? Next time you want to send a vessel, send some school boats. And people will know that you come in friendship. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel very happy to be here. As I said, 24 hours ago I was heading from Dubai to John F. Kennedy, and 24 hours from now I'll be in Brasilia doing the work for which I was elected. There's a lot to be done, a lot to be achieved, and this function today is a great encouragement to me. It's an encouragement because I believe that it signifies that Guyanese are starting to realize that as a united nation, although we are a small state, we could overcome the obstacles facing us if we work together. Norman has said it, at least he's spoken with some parts of my annual confidential report. I'm very grateful for that. But this is not about a military mission. This is about the mission for our children. This is about the future, not only of Guyanese children, it's about the future of this continent. It's about the future of the Caribbean. I want the Caribbean to be a zone of peace. I would like to, I know the soldiers won't hear this, but I'll wait till the Chief of Staff leaves to say I would like to be able to have a country without an army. Maybe we'll have a militia which helps with civil defense and helps to ensure our territorial integrity. But the GDF is there to make sure we don't lose any cuirasses. No blades of grass. But I hope the time will come when the threat of armed invasion is completely removed and the people of this continent, through the Union of South American States, could be exchanging troops who are assisting with volcanoes and earthquakes and other forms of environmental disaster, rather than acquiring corvettes and fighters to attack one another and drive petroleum exploration vessels out of their waters. This must be a continent of friendship. This must be a zone of peace. And that is what we continue to aim at. Thank you very much. I don't want to hold back your lunch any longer. I'm not sure that cuirass is on the menu. Those of you who've never eaten that. But I'm very happy to see all of you here today. Thank you. And remember, hold the frankincense some more. Let's have more school boards.